with Iris. Here's your host, my loving wife, Iris.
Hola, mi gente bonita. Hello, beautiful people. And welcome back to Conversations with Iris, where we grow, we heal, and we have real conversations that actually they just matter. They do something to your soul. Before we jump in today's episode, oh my God, I have to pause for a moment and brag. I just have to put this out there. Recently, I learned that Conversations with Iris is now ranking in the top 10% podcast globally. What a blessing. And we officially surpassed 10,000 downloads. And I just sat there for a moment when I saw that. My husband showed me that. I was like, wait a minute. This is not just because of numbers, it's about impact. It's about every single one of you who actually press play, download it, listen all the way through, and share these wonderful episodes. So, truly, I just have to say this. Thank you for the milestone for this little podcast that could. It just continues to grow because of you and all these great conversation. Gracias, te lo agradezco. That means thank you. I appreciate it. And of course, thank you for continuing to trust this place and this additional space for you where it's just full of love and great conversation. Now, let's get down to our today's conversation. I just have to transition and talk about this great guest because first of all, I want you to know that today's conversation is not light. It's not polished. It is definitely not performative. It's about the uncomfortable, the painful, the messy parts of life that most people hide behind those so called titles, statuses, and even hiding behind spiritually. It's just a story that is not to shock, but because silence became just too heavy for someone to carry. So think about that for a second. Let me tell you guys about our wonderful guest today. He is a real estate investor, a wealth and wellness coach, founder of the Quantum Health, and he is also an international speaker. I love that. And the founder of the VFT23 Publishing LLC. He holds a PhD in spiritual counseling, which I think is so phenomenal. And he was born in Blackpool, England, and has been rooted in Florida since 1989. And I love how his work has centered into transformation, emotional truth, and I love it, that spiritual alignment that he does. But today we're talking about the man behind the mission, okay? He is the author of The Venus Flytrap: Sex, Lies, and Repercussions. Oh, I just love that. The Venus flytrap. That just gives me, I don't know, like I'm old school, like, I don't know, 70s, 60s vibe. Let me say that again. The Venus flytrap, sex, lies, and repercussions. It's a raw, electrifying memoir of obsession, self deception, and chaos. And it's ultimately about that self discovery. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Stephen Paul Edwards to Conversations with Iris. Bienvenidos. Welcome, Stephen.
Oh, thank you so much. You always give a beautiful, amazing, kind, and thoughtful introduction. So I appreciate that very much. And there's a lot of good things that I heard about that. And I said, who is this guy? I'd like to meet him. Um, but as everyone's going to find out, I'm a long way from being perfect. And what we're going to talk about is revealing my dark side, right? The side that
Yes.
you talked about that I'd hidden for so long, and taking ownership of that through this memoir about me and this amazing woman called Tamaz, and the incredibly toxic, destructive, completely crazy relationship that we had together and where it led and the learning that I got from it.
Oh my goodness. This sounds already great. I could just tell. And again, I love the title of the book. I mean, I don't know. I just have to brag. The Venus flytrap. Where did that come
Mm.
from? Like, I don't know. Like, I grew up watching a lot of scary movies and like, I don't know. That just gives me scary vibes, but I love it.
Yeah,
I thrive on those scary movies. So where did that title come from? Because it's deep, it's eye catching, and I just love it.
perfect. It's a perfect question, Iris, because it's quite amazing where it came from. It's a great story. So I had just going through a divorce. Again, as I explained in the book, my fourth marriage was over, and I was going through the trauma of that. Anybody who's been through a divorce know it's not easy.
Mhm.
And I'd been, grieving over it for a while. And my friend finally said, one of my friends was saying, you got to get out, man. You got to get out from under this. You can't be, morbid and depressed all the time. You got to get out. Maybe you should date. And I go, date? Are you crazy? I travel 4 days a week. I travel one day to get there, one day to come back, and then I do a 3-day training in cities all over America. So that when am I going to have time to date? So
Yeah.
anyway, finally, I decided to go onto the internet and look around, see if I could find someone that I could date. And I came across this woman, Tomas, who actually it was a national website, but she lived down the road from me, right, 40 minutes away.
Small world.
So, and I was just completely from the moment I laid eyes on her, Iris, I just besotted with her. She's incredibly beautiful. She was a former international supermodel, and you could just see she came from tremendous wealth. Her father was a billionaire, so she was a completely spoiled brat, but just magnetic. And so I'm on this website, and I keep thinking I got no chance with her, right? And so I turned into like a little schoolboy, terrified of her rejecting me, right? So I kept
Yeah.
going somewhere else and then going back to her. And finally I said, what have I got to lose? I'll just send her an email, see what happens. So anyway, I got nowhere. So I won't forget about it. And I go back again. And finally I sent her an email that convinced her to go to dinner with me. She'd already canceled on me twice. And I kept thinking, I gotta nail this down, right? I can't let her cancel on me
Yeah.
again.
You did not give up, I see.
Well, I did. Well, you know what? When you fall for someone heavy, you've got
Yeah.
power and you've got persuasion and you've got determination
You gotta
that
do it.
you don't normally have, right? So I'm setting up the date, and I went to extraordinary lengths. I mean, in the book, it explains all the crazy details that I went to for this and make this date, and no one would ever believe it was a first date. That's how crazy it was. But anyway, I texted her at one point to let her know that I was going to buy her some flowers. Because I mean, who can cancel a date when when you know they're going to buy you some flowers, right? I
I
thought that'll
know.
tie the date down. So I sent her this text, and the text said, "Yeah, we've got everything arranged. It's going to be amazing. And what's your favorite flower?" Right? So she texted back, "Bird of paradise."
Mm.
So as you discover, I'm a real jokester. I got a great sense of humor. It's probably my biggest asset. So I texted her back. I go, "Nuh-uh, mine too." And then
Wow.
I said, "But it's a bit expensive though. So what's your second favorite?"
Look at that.
And I kid you not, Iris, 2 seconds later, it came back, Venus flytrap.
Wow. No way.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that was her, right? So there it was. It was laid down. And so she was this dichotomy of this beautiful bird of paradise. And the dark side of her was the Venus flytrap.
Wow. And that was actually her second favorite. Like she actually said, I like Venus flytraps. Like she actually said that.
You just said Venus flytrap. Bang. Just,
Wow. Wow.
and it came back so quick and no frills. Oh, I love just Venus flytrap.
Wow.
That it hit a chord with me. My intuition said, you better be careful,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And so some people might call that a red flag, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can't believe the red flags that came out that I ignored. Right? It's just unbelievable, right?
Oh.
So, but it was laid there, and so it's the beautiful metaphor for the book because she was the Venus flytrap and I was the fly.
Wow. Wow. And that's so funny that you just came up with what is it, the title for the story. It's definitely relatable. Now I see how I'm connecting the dots now.
Yeah.
First of all, it's very eye-catching. It definitely makes sense. And as I research and learn a bit more about your story and your book, your memoir, I'm not gonna lie, what stood out to me, not just the title, but why you choose to tell this story. You met this lady, she just took your breath away. You went through a divorce, but you said, if I quote, that you didn't write this for an audience, you wrote it to face yourself. So my question is, what was that exact moment when silence became heavier than the truth? After all of this happened, basically she told you Venus flytrap. You didn't see the signs, but let's dig a little bit into that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's kind of layered, right? So I had this experience, and throughout having the experience, and for my life, I kept these things secret, right? But secrets eat away at you,
Yeah.
and they hold you prisoner, and they stop you from being your authentic self. So I decided to share these things that happened in my, my sexuality, my the dark side of my nature. We
Mhm.
all have a light side and a dark side, and I'd always try to hide my dark side, right? And then been afraid that if it ever came out, people knew, you know, they may not love me anymore.
Yeah.
And so I realized that, her coming into my life. Now, we did crazy things to each other, right? We were not nice all the time by any stretch of the imagination. We did all kinds of crazy things to each other, which are in the book. But anyway, um, and people would say, you shouldn't even be in the same state as her, let alone the same room, right? Um, because this Venus flytrap part of her wanted to destroy men, right?
Oh my God. Yeah.
I didn't find that out right away. It took me 2 weeks, right? She tried to steal my home, my cars. At that time, I was very successful financially. Well, I mean, depends how you compare that. But I'm making $1 million a year, which is pretty good. And I'm living in a
Yeah.
7,000 square foot mansion, and I have a sex room in the house, right? Nobody knew that was in there. Nobody. No one would ever believed it, right?
Mm.
But I did.
And I
So
just have to
anyway,
stop and say that is very Christian Grey of you. When I was looking at your research, you were like, "Well, if you like 50 Shades of Grey, this is definitely a story for you." I just had to stop and said that, and say
yeah,
that right
no,
now because
no question about
that's
it. The whole thing is
awesome.
there. And then some, because in the 50 Shades of Grey, she's normal, right?
Yes.
But Tamar's not normal by a long stretch of the imagination.
Oh my
And
goodness.
not safe, right? She's dangerous, extremely dangerous, right? So you want to talk about spicy? I mean, she was dangerous. So, and I didn't know that to begin with. What I knew about her when we first date, which was an extraordinary first date, mind blowing. It was probably more mind blowing than the one that Christian Grey had with
With
his
Anna.
partner in the movie when he takes off in a helicopter and stuff.
Yeah.
So we had all this amazing night, which made me fall for her even more, right? But then 2 weeks later, I discovered something that her father had put her in an asylum when she was 16 and had her locked away, and she couldn't get out. Right. But the irony was we were mirrors of each other, Iris, because when I was 16 years old, guess what happened?
What
I
happened
ended up in
then?
an insane asylum.
Really? Oh my
Yeah, I got
goodness.
taken. I got I forget what they call it now. It's not like a Baker Act, but it's like you don't have any choice, right?
Mhm.
And I was diagnosed with manic depression, or as we
Manic
now call it,
depression.
bipolar.
Mm.
Now I never found out what she was diagnosed with, and she wouldn't tell me. Um, but it was bad, and I find out what it is in the end, and unfortunately, it was tragic, right? Very tragic, because you would think when you read the book that it would be a point where I just came to a breaking point and I just broke up with her for one last time and it was over, but it wasn't like that.
Mm.
I didn't have a choice. There was no choice. The choice was taken away from me by a disease
Wow. And how long
that is
did you guys date
incurable.
for?
Beg
How
your
long did you
pardon?
guys how long did you guys date for? I'm sorry.
3 years.
3 years. Wow.
Yeah. So it started out that she was trying to destroy me, right? So she tried to steal my house. She tried to get me because I found out she was drinking. She was an alcoholic. And I found a bottle of Captain Morgan's rum in the cupboard in the guest bathroom. And I knew instantly because I'd married an alcoholic before. Talk about creating the same patterns, right?
Yeah. Very
So
difficult.
when I found it, you would think the smart thing to do would have been, okay, well, let's have some fun. And then at the end of the weekend, I'll take her home. And that's the end of it. But that's not what I wanted, right? So I called my friend, Jerry, who's in the book all the time, trying to be my conscience, right? I said, listen, man, you need to come over because I'm going to do something. I need you here just in case. Because I knew the chances were if I confronted her, it was going to go sideways, right? Which of course it did. I mean, really sideways. She went crazy because you just can't confront someone like that who's not ready to be confronted, right? So the bottom line is, in the end, I decided she'd gone missing in the house, couldn't find her. We knew she was there, but we couldn't find her. And she'd gone ballistic with both of us, me and Jerry. but she tried to get rid of Jerry so she could get me on my own and get me to get into being physical, right? So I managed to avoid that, but then she disappeared in the house. So what I did is I called her father, which was pretty gutsy because her father's a billionaire, right? He'd never met me. He didn't even know anything about me. But I was like, at the end of my tether, I didn't know what else to do. So I called him up and he answered. And I'm like, most people don't answer the phone unless they know who it is.
Wow.
Anyway, he answered the phone. And I said, Mr. Kingston, my name is Stephen Edwards. You don't know me, but I'm dating your daughter. Silence. So then I said, I don't know whether you know this or not, but she's an alcoholic. And he said, oh, I know.
He knew.
He knew, right?
Oh.
I said, really? He said, oh, yeah, I've had to go to rehab many, many times. Last time when I spent $100,000 on her, she checked in and then she checks out 3 days later.
Wow.
He said to me, let me ask you a question. Is she in your house? I said, I didn't want to tell him I didn't know where she was, right? I said, yeah. He said, get her out and don't ever let her back in again, because if you do, you're a fool. Now, you want to talk about a red flag, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to talk about someone who's not ready to hear. It's like I was like a heroin addict already, right? So he later told me, because we became friends, later on, he flew out to see us in one of his airplanes, right? So he flies out to see us and we go for lunch. And when she goes to the bathroom, he said, I thought I told you what to do. He said, you don't listen, you don't take advice very well, do you? I go, no. He said, well, how's it going? I said, well, pretty much everything you said was true, but we're still together and we're working through it. And he kind of looked at me and shook his head like, you're never going to learn. So anyway, this is what went on. This was the madness, right? So I put the phone down and now I'm thinking, Iris, like, all right, that's it. Game's up, right? Now she's going to have to admit it and come out and we'll get it figured out, right? So I call her up. I don't know where she is, but she picked up the phone, right? She goes, what? Like this, right? I go, listen, I just spoke to your father. He's explained everything to me. And before I could say another word, I don't know if I'm allowed to use explicit language here, but anyway.
Say it how it is. We are,
all right.
I am no filter. Just give it to us raw.
Okay, good. So she came back at me. What gives you the fucking right to call my father? Right? Like she was so angry, right?
Oh.
Right? So she said, you had no right to call him, blah, 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 and slams the phone down. Then she calls me back like 1 minute later. And then she goes into another tirade. And this is how it was, right? So obviously I made another mistake. So then when we put the phone down, finally, I'm thinking, I don't know what she's going to do right now. Maybe I should just probably call the sheriff, right? So I called the sheriff and you know what they said?
What did they say?
They're already on the way.
What? Wow,
She'd already called him. She'd already called him. She beat me to the punch, right?
Crazy lady, that's for sure.
Oof. So when they get to the house, she runs out of the garage, right? And goes to meet them, right? So she's in the garage, right? So she goes out to meet them and she wants to control the narrative, right? One of the things you just said about her she was incredibly intelligent. Her father was a genius, which is why I was able to create $1 billion, right? So she'd got those genes in her. Incredibly intelligent, not just beautiful, but intelligent, but was so angry at her father because he put her in that asylum and he's very emotionally devoid. So she never felt loved by her father. She thought her father didn't love her. And obviously, if your father can't love you, then who can?
Yeah.
And throughout her life being so beautiful, she attracted men that she in her mind believed only wanted her for sex.
Wow.
And so she was angry at men. And so she wanted to beat them at everything. And what she wanted to do was destroy them because she felt she'd been destroyed by her father and other men, right? Which makes sense, right? So her MO was to get me in a situation, or ideally to get me in a physical altercation so that she could call the police, have me arrested. Then, and I didn't know this until the police explained it to me, what she would have done, she would have filed a restraining order against you. And because she's a guest, you can't make her leave. You would have had to have her evicted and you wouldn't have been allowed within, half a mile of your house.
Yeah.
And she could have taken you for everything.
Oh my goodness.
And her father told me that's what she'd done a number of times.
This is not the first time, huh?
Sorry, what?
This is not the first time. She does this all the time.
No. She's done it many times. And her father told me that. He said, the last guy she did, he was such a nice guy. and she took him for everything, right? So anyway, so you would think I escaped by the skin of my teeth, right? Because the police come over, and of course, she'd already laid the narrative. She told them that Jerry and I had tried to rape her in the sex room. So now she's told them there's a sex room in there, which gives some truth to what she's saying, right? Some credence to what she's saying, and then told them we were both gay.
Oh
So
my
the police
God.
came in and told me the story. I'm like, hold on a second. We tried to rape her, but we're both gay. How does that work?
Wow.
One of the policemen said, yeah, I was kind of thinking that myself, but she just wanted to throw as much out there as possible to get me arrested, right? So anyway, fortunately, unbeknownst to me, Iris, my friend Jerry, while she was going crazy, had recorded her on his phone.
Oh wow.
And so he said to the sheriff, look, I have a recording of her, which will show you and this clearly what was going on. And he said, can I play it for you? And one of the sheriffs said, well, did you ask her for permission? He said, no. He said, well, it's not admissible then. So Jerry said, I'm not really interested if it's admissible. I just want you to listen to it because right now there's a lot on the line here, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to take it to
Especially
jail.
for
So the
you.
other one said, okay, let's just listen to it. They listened to it and that was it,
Mhm.
right? They were like, okay, now we get it.
Wow.
So fortunately, we didn't get arrested. And so she had to leave. And so now, having heard that, which is a small part of the whole story there, you would think that I would never see her again, right? We were already made up again by 11 o'clock the following morning.
Oh no.
So these patterns continued for a while. I was the fly, she was the Venus flytrap. But here's the irony, right? So, and this is something I learned from this experience. Obviously, everybody was trying to get me away from her, right? After that happened, right? And other things. There's all kinds of other incidents as well. She did some crazy stuff to me.
Wow.
But I was addicted to her. She was my heroine, right? And so I stuck through. I mean, I would break up with her and I would say, we're not going to get back together. But she knew I was going to say that. And she knew she could wear me down, right? She knew she could get me back every time.
Mhm.
So it became a pattern. Anyway, here's what I learned. One of the things I learned, there's many things that I learned from this, that sometimes we think that we need to save people for going through things in their lives. And it's not the right thing to do. Sometimes people need to go through that experience to get to the side and understand the pattern and break it. And I needed to do that.
Yeah.
I needed to go through this. And it was painful at times, but also at times it was incredibly joyful. We had the time of our lives at times, right? But if anybody had stopped me doing that or got her away from me before I was ready, then I would have had to have that happen to me again in a different way with a different person, but it would have been the same lesson, right? So sometimes it's not a bad thing to go through tough, hard experiences. It actually can make your life better or even help you have freedom. See, all this happening to me didn't happen to me, it happened for me. It all happened for me. She was a beautiful spirit that came into my life to help me come to understandings I would otherwise have never come to. So I loved her then and I love her now. And I have no anger or resentment for any of it, only gratitude for her. And the reason we're not together is not because we don't want to be, it's because we can't be. Because if she was to walk in the room right now, we would be back to exactly where we were at that time.
Wow.
So I have to stay away. So, when you read the book, you go, how on earth did he put up with this? How on earth did that happen? And I did stuff
Yeah.
too, right? I got mad with her, of course, right? I mean, I
3
left her in
years
Vegas
though.
one time with no money and no way to get
Yeah.
home. I mean, I got her home eventually, but the point is we did crazy things to each other, right? But in the end, we always, we almost got thrown off a cruise ship. I booked as a penthouse on a cruise ship, and we almost got thrown off there. We ended up having sex on a glass table on the deck, and we didn't realize or weren't even caring that there was a deck above us where you could look over. So the half the ship was watching us have sex on a glass table
Wow.
in the penthouse on a ship. And
Oh
they were all watching, and then so the crew were trying to break in. there was a staircase going down to the lower deck. They were trying to break in to come up to tell us stop, and the phone was ringing in the room, and we only became aware of it when we'd finished, right?
Oh God, where's the popcorn at? That was some entertainment, I bet, for a lot of
Oh
people.
my God, yeah. And of course, I was half mortified, going, "Oh my God, what's
Oh
going to
my
happen now?" She's like, she liked it, right? She was fine with it, you know. Everybody knew she was having sex. She was okay with that. So she was a lot more open to this stuff. We used to, in the sex room, I used to take pictures of her, videos of her, and she'd look at the pictures and say, "We should put these up
Wow.
on the walls of the house." And I'm like, "There's no freaking way I'm going to put those on the walls of the house." You know, it was me that was more conservative than her, right? She could
Oh
care
my
less.
God. I hate
You
to
know,
say this, Stephen, but she sounds very fun, like you
I
said,
know.
she's very
That's
fun.
what I mean. How could you not love her, right? I mean, she's so lovable. And everybody reads the book, go, "She's amazing. I want to
Yeah.
be like her," right? So
Wow.
anyway, which is phenomenal. I go, "Well, I don't feel so bad for loving her then, do I?" Right? I guess I was in my right mind. Um, so anyway, we just did crazy things all the time. We would never go anywhere and it'd be normal. There was just something that would happen. Police would be involved. Um, we would go we'd go to nightclubs, and that was completely her scene, right? She loved nightclubs. She lived in Brazil, Paris, Miami, Los Angeles, and she's this young, beautiful woman. I mean, obviously, she had the time of her life there too. And she
Mm,
was also bisexual. So she
wow.
could pick I'm not joking, Irish, she could pick up a man or a woman in less than 60 seconds.
Wow.
I watched her do
I
it.
bet you had a lot of fun with that bisexual part of her, I bet too. So,
Well, interesting. That's so funny you would say that, right? Because I'm not into that, right? I
wow.
wasn't, and not, most guys are going, "You've got to be kidding me right now." And I'm going,
Those
"No."
two girls.
There was even a situation that happened. We go out to we used to like to go to the Ritz Carlton, right? So we'd go and have dinner there, and so we go into the Ritz Carlton. We're having drinks on the veranda, and she goes to the bathroom. She comes out with this beautiful young blonde girl, right?
Mm,
And I already knew where this was going, right? I already knew where it was going. And she had offered to have some of her girlfriends come over and spend the weekend with us in the sex room and do those things. I said, "Look, I'm just not into it with other women. You know, why would I want to have sex with another woman when I can have sex with who I believe is the most beautiful woman in the world? They're not going to compare to you anyway. And it's enough for me to keep up with you, and never mind two of you, right?" So, and she'd always say, "Okay, she'd be fine," but she'd always try again. So anyway, she walks out of the bathroom at the Ritz Carlton with this beautiful young blonde girl, and I know what she's going to do, right?
mm.
So she brings her out, and she sits with us, and she says, "Stephen, this is Tracy. We just met in the bathroom," and Tracy is just
Ooh,
oozing about, "Oh, I just met Tomas. It's like we've known each other for years, right? Like I've known her all my life. I'm so happy to have met her because," and she's telling us that she just moved to Sarasota, where we live, because she'd had a bad relationship and she had to move to get away from this guy. So she was in a really tender place, right?
wow.
And Tomas is looking at me and I'm looking at her going, with the look in my face, like, "Be nice to this girl," right? So she's taking no notice of me, right? So then so she says that now she's like parading her for me like a horse, right? So she says, "Look at her teeth, Stephen. Aren't they beautiful?" I mean, what am I going to say? No, they're horrible, right? She goes, "Yeah." And look at her breasts. Are those real? And she's going, "Oh yeah, they're real," right? I'm trying to make jokes, right? I'm like, "Oh
Wow.
yeah, mine are too. I'm not into, fake boobs." And she's going, "No, no, me either." Right? Okay, she didn't get that. All right. So then Mom says, "Oh, look at her legs. Tracy, show me." Then she's pulling her skirt up and showing me her legs. I'm
Wow.
like, I'm just like mortified, right? I'm going. So anyway, Tamar says, "We need to go and powder our noses," and I know what she's going to be doing there, right? So they come back, and Tamar says, "Listen, we have a proposal." I'm trying to get out of it. I'm going, "Listen, I've already proposed to someone. I'm taken." And she said, "Well, you're going to get another one, so shut up." She says,
Wow. What did
but I
she
think
say?
in a playful way, right? But she goes, "Well, we've decided we think it'd be more fun if we could go somewhere more private." Of course, right?
Mm,
So I get up and I walk past Tomas and I said, "Can I have a word?" So we go into the hotel area where the bathrooms are. And an alcove there, and I go stand in the alcove, and she runs after me, and she goes, "What the fuck are you doing? You're spoiling all this." You know what I mean? I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, look, she's not been laid for 6 months. She's so ready, and she's already told me some of the things she wants to do to you. What's wrong with you? Right? So I go, well, look, I've already told you. I'm. What did I say? I said something else first of all, but it didn't work. Right? I said, well, look, it's a. She said, we got to go get a room. I said, get a room? We're at the Ritz Carlton. You can't just go up to reception and say with three people with no bags and say, give me a room.
Mm.
She
Yeah.
goes, she says, we're not going to come with you, stupid. You're going to go book the room and then we're going to follow you up there. I'm like, okay, that didn't get me out of it, did it? So I said, have you any idea how much a room here costs? She
Mm.
goes, she just rolls her eyes like, stop it. That's never going to come into your mind, right? I go, okay, well, here's the deal. I'm just not into it, right? Which was embarrassing for me to say, right? I'm like, I've got to admit that I don't want to sleep with two women. So she goes, listen, she lives close by. We will take, let's just get her in the rolls, take her home, and then she'll invite us in. I'm just shaking my head, I'm not doing it. So she goes, so I go, I'm leaving. She goes, well, I'm staying. I said, okay, you stay. So I'm leaving and I'm getting out. I get out to the valet and I have them bring the Rolls Royce around, right? And they bring it around. I get in, I'm starting to drive away. She comes running out. She opens the suicide door and jumps in the car.
Wow.
She's like a freaking stunt woman, right? So then we're driving down the road and she's going crazy. Like, why are you doing this? We could have had this fun and all that. And that couple of weeks earlier, I told you I left her in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
I'd already left her in Vegas when she got completely out of control. So I said to her, listen, Tamaz, if you don't stop, I'm going to drop you off here and then you can make your own way back. So she stopped immediately because she knew I probably would, right? So I took her back. She was staying at a hotel, which is a whole other story. She got banned from living in my house, right? Literally, she got banned from the community. Not easy thing to do, but she did it. So I had to put her up in hotels. So she was staying in a hotel. So I drop her off outside the hotel. Of course, she gets out of the car. She slams the door, right? Very dramatic, knowing that was going to really piss me off. And she goes in the hotel and leaves me. Anyway, I'm not going to continue too much with the story, but she took the keys to my car, to the Rolls Royce. You know, the key fob? Yes. Now you can drive away, but when you get at a certain distance and you turn the engine off, you can't start it again.
Yeah.
So I was
gotta let the engine go.
And I went for some company to her former girlfriend's house. So my car is parked outside her house, right? So I had to go in and try and explain some of this and then go back to her hotel in an Uber, try and get the keys and come back. Well, she wouldn't give me the keys. I had to have the Rolls Royce towed. I had to get a new key fob that cost me $500. And so at the end of the night, I'm in bed thinking about what happened. I left the house with a Rolls Royce. I went with a beautiful girl to the Ritz Carlton to have dinner. I then had two girls, so she brought another girl. I ended up with no girls, not getting the dinner, and no Rolls Royce. I'm the only guy that can pull that off in one night.
Wow.
So these are the kind of things that happen, which were hilarious, but traumatic at the same time.
Yeah, and very toxic. I mean, extremely toxic. So, I mean, you mentioned that this happened in a 3-year period. I mean, definitely toxic. You guys were to each other, loving, but then again, toxic.
Yeah.
When was that tipping point for you? Like, when were you like, you've had enough, you walked away finally? When was that? When was that aha moment for you?
It never happened, really. Let me tell you why. So what happened was, we talked about, and you've talked about all this background I had in personal and spiritual development, which is hard to believe that I had when you read the book. You go, this guy's got no idea. Anyway, because I was overtaken by obsession and addiction, right? So what happened is a friend of mine, Jerry, I've talked about, for Christmas, bought me a little stack of books all about different aspects of psychology, because he knew I was into that, working with Tony Robbins and different things. So one of the books, Iris, was called I Hate You, Don't Leave Me. That book is a book about borderline personality disorder. And when I was reading the case studies in the book, it was her written on the pages. And so now I understood more about why she was the way she is, right? And what that gave me was an even deeper compassion for her, because I realized she wasn't doing these things on purpose. This was part of the condition. And there are 9 symptoms of borderline personality disorder. If you have 5, you've got borderline. She had all 9. And not only did she have all 9, she had them all to an extreme.
Oh my goodness.
Now, it says in the book that borderline personality disorder is treatable. And it is. But what I thought I read was it's curable. And it isn't curable.
Wow.
The best you can hope for is that with therapy, at least 3 times a week, you can make it livable. And you can live a pretty normal life, right? But
Wow.
she would never go to therapy. Why? Because of what happened to her as a child or teenager, being locked in an asylum. She was terrified that if she went to a therapist, she might get readmitted.
Wow. So it's like she never really took care of herself or never faced any therapy. I mean, what's going on with her right now? Do you still keep in contact with her?
No, I don't.
Wow.
But I hear things. It's the same. It will never change. And so the reason she was an addict, alcohol, drugs, sex, is because those were her escape from reality, and she couldn't bear reality.
Oh, poor thing. To like numb the pain. And I can't believe I'm
Exactly.
saying that, poor
Right.
thing, but she was
So
trying to
she,
numb the pain.
that's exactly right, Iris. So she
Oh,
would never give those up because they were her survival mechanisms.
mm. I think one of the hardest parts of all of this, Stephen, is the fact that some people don't even realize that, like you mentioned, she was the Venus, you were the fly, you were trapped in there
Mhm.
for 3 years. The hardest part of it is people don't realize how hard it is to be with somebody that has mental health issues. It's very hard. It's very toxic. It's very draining. What
It
would you
is.
tell? I
It
mean,
is.
what would
It is.
it,
But I
it?
just want to say this, right?
Yeah, no, no. Go
We
ahead.
had the time of our lives as well. It
Yeah.
wasn't all, bad by any stretch of the imagination. We flew all over the world. We
Oh, that's
stayed
so
in some of the
nice.
most beautiful resorts, hotels. We had a life, Iris, that wasn't even close to being real. It was a complete fantasy world, right?
Mm.
We didn't have any kids. We lived in this mansion when we were at home. We did what we wanted. We'd spend 3 or 4 days in the sex room. And the reason the reason we're able to do that is because I'm pretty artistic in the bedroom, right? Because when I was a kid, this is all stuff. This is all in the book. I was I as a young kid. You know how what happens with boys? They're in the showers, and one kid's going to get picked on for having a small dick, right? And that was
Yeah,
me, right? And so I was. It was relentless, right? The
you gotta get
teasing when I was
creative.
a kid, it traumatized me, right?
Yeah.
So, like everything, you say it doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. So, the silver lining of that, I became an overachiever in the bedroom.
Mm.
I had to learn ways to pleasure my partner, right? In addition to intercourse, right? So, I became very creative at that. So, I could pleasure her for hours and hours and hours. And I was getting pleasure too because of me as a child, never thinking I'd be able to give pleasure to a partner. My biggest turn on was giving pleasure,
Mm. And I bet
right?
that's what she liked too.
And that's what she liked. That's
Yeah.
right. We were the perfect match. And then in between these long sessions in the sex room, we would go outside onto the veranda right by the pool, and there's a fire pit out there, and we would sit and we would play backgammon because we both loved backgammon.
Mm.
And so we would play this game, both very competitive, but we'd also talk for hours. And she would share some amazing insights because, like I said, she was brilliant. And she would say, I'm from tomorrow. And she was from the future because the things she would say, I could see this is how people will be in the future. It's just a little bit early right now, right? She would talk to me about monogamy and how monogamy could be so destructive and why. And I would go, wow, I can see that. Yeah. But we're conditioned to be a certain way by society. Anyway, so that's how we were able to spend 3 or 4 days just doing that. We had no responsibilities, nothing. We could just do that, which most people can. And then we would travel, and she would come with me to my events, and then we would go hang out, go to dinner, clubs, whatever after that, and then come back and pretty much stay up all night having sex while I was on the road, which was
Mm.
which was very destructive, right? Because I
Yeah.
wasn't paying attention to my business
Mm.
and I was losing myself. because I was extremely healthy, uh, juicing, working out, meditating, journal, all the stuff, right? And when she came along, that all went out of the window. So she was
Wow.
drawing me down into her world rather than me pulling her up into mine. And so I
Wow.
was losing myself. So in the end, when I had to let her go, because my therapist said, "Look, Stephen, you got to understand something. She's never going to go to therapy because of these reasons." And she said, "So you got to ask yourself, is this how you want to be for the rest of your life? You're not only
Mm.
losing your business, you're not losing all the things around you, you're losing yourself. And if you don't let her go, you're going to fall into insanity. You're almost there." And I said,
Wow.
"Yeah, I get it. I realize." And so I had to let it go, Iris. It wasn't like I wanted to, I had to. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And so that's why I had to cut off every kind of communication that was possible with her, because if I didn't, I would have gone back.
Mm.
Just like
Mm-mm-mm.
a heroin addict, right? You never recover from that. You're never not a heroin addict ever again, because if you shoot up one time, you're back to where you were.
Mm. And
So pretty
and
interesting story. And, there's some amazing, funny, exciting, adventurous, and tragic. In the end, it's a
oh
tragedy.
my God. And Stephen, this I'm gonna just say this, and I'm just saying this for laughing giggles, but this is like a country song. But if you
It is.
yes, this
You
is
know
like
what?
a
You're the
country
first
music
person to
song.
say that, but you're right. It totally is.
And
Totally
I,
is.
I have to tell you this. If you're not working with Netflix yet to make a series about your book, you're doing something wrong. I hope this comes to fruition as a series, because
Yeah.
I could just see this played out like in at least 10 episodes, of this. I think this will be good. I'm just throwing this out there because it's like wow. And Stephen, I just have to ask, because this is a lot. From the outside, you guys had a beautiful relationship. I mean, beautiful sex life.
Yeah.
You traveled, but then
Uh-huh.
again, the toxicity of that,
Uh-huh.
with the
Uh-huh.
mental health,
Yeah.
overshadowed. You lost yourself. What
Yeah.
would you tell our listeners that are currently in a situation like this, that have not had the chance to find that therapy or transform themselves, or
Mhm.
put the
Mhm.
story into paper and pen like you did to help
Mhm.
someone out there? What would you tell an
Yeah.
individual that's listening to this, that's going through a relationship like this?
What would I tell somebody? Yeah, it's a great question. First of all, just so you know, it is absolutely my intention to get this on Netflix, 100%. It's just it's
Yes,
a
do
human,
it.
yeah, yeah. So I'm going to be talking to people about it. I just want to get everything in order first, right? So it's three books, by the way, not one. It's three.
Oh,
Um,
good.
this is the first of three. But to go back to your question, more importantly, um, my 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 answer to that comes with a little bit of reticence, because, like I said earlier, we go through what we go through until we don't need to go through it anymore. Does that make sense? So I don't
Mhm.
know that I would say you got to get out of this, because I don't know, right?
Yeah. It's
But
hard.
it
Yeah.
is hard. It's so hard. And so, but that doesn't mean we can't share the wisdom of our experiences with somebody and then let them make the
Mm.
decision. So at the end, which is really important with our friends and our relatives, they're going to go through things, and they may or may not listen to what we think is reason, because they may need to go through that experience. The most important thing is to love them through it and to be there for them in the end, right? I think that's the most important thing. But while you're going through it, um, you've got to listen to your intuition. It's a gift we all have, right? That's telling us what's best for us, right? We live in a very mentally driven world, right? The mind. But in fact, and I have this on my website when I talk about my mission and vision and purpose. There are there's a beautiful tribe of elders uh, in Alaska, right? And they wrote a poem about life, and they said we live in a reverse society.
Mm.
It used to be we taught our children how to live, but now we teach them how to make a living.
That's deep. I
It
love that.
used to be that our heart guided our mind. Now nobody listens to their heart. And it goes on and on like that. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's on my website. But it's just a beautiful way to think, and you go, that makes so much more sense, right?
Mhm. That's
So
beautiful.
they are obviously in tune with nature, you know. And I was, listening to your one of your other podcasts earlier about Laura Frost, right? Uh,
Oh, yeah.
in nature, and we get which we've got to go back to our nature, right? And I think we are going back to our nature. I think the world that we know it is in the process of imploding, right? To where we are going to need to go to our intuition more because you can't believe anything anybody says outside of yourself.
Correct.
We're being pushed inside because that
Mm,
wisdom, that knowing is already there. We don't need external uh, people to tell us what we need to do or not do. And so we're learning that and be in connection with our nature as, I believe we're spirits having a human experience. And we need to get to that soulful living, intuitive living, living from our heart. I call our heart our CIA, our
mm,
Central Intelligence Agency.
I love that. I never thought about it like that, but it's true, you know?
Yeah. And now scientifically, we can show that there are more neurons, cells of intelligence in our heart than in our mind, in our brain.
Mm, mm. Stephen, as we start to bring this conversation into a closure, I mean, there's something I always think about when we have discussions like this. And I love this, you know. I feel like books are powerful, right? And stories are powerful, but I feel like what stays with people is usually one sentence, one truth, one idea, just one thing out there. And I want to make sure I make this clear for our audience members. What do you hope that they walk away after reading your book? Like, what is that one sentence that would change their reading, like their thought process after reading the Venus flytrap?
One thing, well, it's another beautiful thing to ask, and I'll give it to you right here. And I've already said it. Coming to this understanding and this belief has been such a powerful transformation for me. And if you really adopt this belief and believe it in your heart, you'll never be a victim anymore. And you will be able to find something of tremendous value in every circumstance and situation and event that happens in your life. And the belief is this: nothing happens to you, everything happens for you.
Mm, mm, that is powerful. Can you repeat that again for our listeners? Repeat it.
Yeah, sure.
That's powerful.
Yeah, nothing happens to you, everything happens for you.
Mm,
And if
that's
you adopt
powerful.
that belief, you can't be a victim anymore. And if everything happens for you, it forces you to look at, okay, this didn't happen to me, it happened for me. So why did it happen for me? Where is the silver lining here? Where is the lesson that I needed to learn? It forces you to look for that. Because if you don't, you will think that people did things to you and be a victim.
Mm. That is powerful. I don't know. You gave me goosebumps right now. Like I'm being for real. You gave me goosebumps after hearing this country song. I mean, after that quote. Come on now. Oh my God. And I know I just feel deeply in my soul that this conversation is going to resonate deeply with so many people right there listening to this
I hope so. I
conversation.
hope so. Yeah. Yeah, I hope so.
So let me ask you, for those that want to read your book, follow your work, because you're not done yet. You're just getting started, or connect with you directly. Where can they find you, Stephen?
Well, thank you for asking that. So, what I've done is I've created a link for your audience, for your viewers and listeners, that I think I've sent to you. If I haven't, I'll send it to you to put wherever you put stuff. That gives them the free book, right? So, I wrote a chapter that really is a strong reflection of the whole book that people can read for free, right? And so get a sense
Mhm.
of it. Uh, and you can also go to my website. The website is vft23.com, vft23.com. All my social media is on there, connections to social media. There's all kinds of other stories and really more about what the book is about to learn about that. And a bunch of blogs on there, all kinds of things that people will find interesting. And, we want people to be part of our family as you want the same thing for you.
Absolutely.
I do intend to do a podcast soon. We're going to start it, and you're coming on the show whether you like it or not. Uh, so we're going to have you on there,
Yes.
and hopefully that gives people enough information to be able to find me if they want to.
That's wonderful. Thank you for telling our listeners again. And that's VFT23.com. You have
Yeah.
stories where to find you, links, and all that stuff. And I hope, I really do hope that you get with Netflix and put this
Yeah.
all out there in a series because this will be big. I don't know. I'm just getting flashbacks like, the show on Netflix called You. That show is
Oh, I
crazy.
love that show. Yes.
Yes, but then
That's
again, it's
awesome.
true. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
those things that, this gentleman goes through, I mean, it's actual real life stuff that people go through,
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just hope that it's better than You. I'm just gonna throw this out there. I just have a feeling that it will. Stephen,
Yeah.
I just really
Mhm.
want to thank you not only for your courage, but being very vulnerable and telling your story and being very transparent. That's what I loved about this conversation. I
Yeah.
know that this is going to resonate with somebody. But I feel like you're reminding us of that truth, especially the messy kind and the
Yeah.
path toward that
Yeah.
freedom. So thank you so much for that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you for having me on. It's been truly a really amazing experience, and I've loved every minute. And I can't believe we've been on as long as we have. It feels like we've been talking for 5 minutes.
I know, but like I mentioned, some conversations will take us there, and it's just fine because this conversation was well worth it. I really do. And I want to thank you so much for it.
You're so kind. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And to our listeners, I hope this conversation stays with you. And if it did, thank you for downloading this episode, for listening, and for sharing. And let's continue to grow together for the next milestone for this podcast. As always, thank you all for listening. Con mucho amor. This has been Conversations with Iris. Stay brave, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.